Hello, Mr. Barton here, and in this video I'm going to share some top tips for making the most of the Diagnostic Questions GCSE Maths scheme of work. Now these tips have been based on questions that we've had in from users who've been using the scheme of work over the last month or so, and also the experience that I've had with colleagues and with students running the scheme of work in my own school. So hopefully they'll prove useful to you. The first question is this: we started the scheme of work late and so missed out on the early topics. What should I do? Now pretty much everybody's going to be in this boat, even if you adopted the scheme of work on the first day, because it was released in October, so there'll be topics from September that students won't have covered. My personal advice is to assign these at a later date. Now if this is year 11, I personally would wait until you've finished teaching the main content and you've got some revision time, and I would assign those manually. Or if you're feeling particularly brave, if you watch the video on reordering the scheme of work, you could always move these right to the end of year 11 and have them automatically assigned. But if you choose to manually do them, let me just show you where you can access these. So if we just go to this, and I'll fire up the internet. If you log into Diagnostic Questions and you just navigate up here and you go to questions, then this will take you, surprise surprise, to a page where you've got all the questions. But if you click on collections, then you'll also get to our landing page here where we've got all the brand new questions provided by Edexcel, OCR and AQA. And if you click on one of these, you'll be able to find all the questions. So if you know, flipping heck, I missed basic decimals, or my year 11s haven't done angles or something like that, you can actually find these quizzes and manually assign them, just like you would do any quiz on Diagnostic Questions. So that would be my advice. Leave it until the end of year 11, or maybe a holiday or something like that, and then catch up on what the students have missed manually. Next one, I want to give my students some extra practice on a topic, but they've done all the 3 quizzes. What should I do? Well, my advice again will be to go back to that landing page, but do something quite different here. If, for example, you're following the Edexcel scheme of work, why not give the students some practice of AQA questions? Or if you're following OCR, why not give them practice of Edexcel and so on? A lot of these quizzes are perfectly transferable between exam boards and awarding bodies. So give them extra practice by trying out some of the quizzes by the other exam boards. It'll certainly do them no harm, and it'll get them asking questions and give them more valuable practice. As we all know, there's not a great deal of good quality resources out there for the new spec GCSE, so certainly make the most of the other exam boards questions. Next one, 3 quizzes per topic is too much for my students. What should I do? Now this is understandable, especially if they're not used to doing a lot of homework, or if they've been used to just doing, say, 1 diagnostic quiz a week or every 2 weeks or something like that. Sometimes if they're doing the scheme of work, they may even have to do 3 in a week, which might be a lot. A couple of options. The first thing I would say is I would advise them to just try to do the 3 quizzes, especially now we've got the mobile app out. Hopefully it'll be a bit of a smoother and a quicker process. Secondly, you could say to the kids, don't bother doing the baseline quiz, but I'd be reluctant to do that, because I think the 3 quizzes on each topic give you very valuable information. I think my best piece of advice would be to say to students, perhaps you don't have to give explanations for the baseline quiz and the understanding quiz, just do it for the progress quiz. Or say, try and do the baseline quiz in 5 minutes or something like that. Make that as a kind of snapshot one that they do quickly, and then get them to spend more time on the later quizzes. That might be how I get round that one, possibly. Next one. My students keep getting really low scores on the baseline quiz and they're becoming demoralised. What should I do? Again, I have full sympathy for this one. I can understand it. And of course, we don't expect or even want students getting 10 out of 10 on the baseline, because the baseline is supposed to inform us where their areas of weakness are. And I think it's a case of communicating this to the students. I think it's a case of saying to them, look, I am not bothered what your score is on the baseline quiz. I'm not bothered at all. I just want you to be 100% honest with me. Give it your best shot. And if you don't know something, it's better that I know it. It's far better if you get 2 out of 10 and I can help you with the other 8 questions than if you just don't bother doing the baseline and have no idea where you need that help. So again, I think it's about being honest and communicating that with students. Next one, some of my students don't have access to a computer, so cannot complete the quizzes. What should I do? We get this a lot at our school. Now, it's tricky sometimes, because sometimes you don't know whether students are making excuses, or poor, my computer wasn't working last night, or I couldn't get on the computer, blah, 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 or whether they're being genuine. So a couple of solutions. First is we've got our mobile app out now, so hopefully if students can get access to a phone, any kind of smartphone or tablet, they'll be able to access it from there. And secondly, we run a Diagnostic Questions catch-up in our school once a week at lunchtime. lunchtime. So Tuesday lunchtime, students know that they can come and catch up on their diagnostic quiz. Possibly something like that could work, but it's just a case of working with the students and again communicating that message that all right, this is homework, but they're doing it for them to help them get better and help you know what help they need and so on. Okay. Next one, I'd love to set some kind of end of term revision test on diagnostic questions based on the topics we've completed up to that point. What should I do? Well, it's a great idea. And again, it goes back to manually setting it for the time being, I think. So you get to the end of half term 1, you can see on the scheme of work that students have covered 5 topics. And go to that collection page I showed you before and just pick out some questions from those 5 topics. Build your own 10 question quiz or 20 question quiz. You can do it in about 2 minutes and then set that to your students as a kind of standalone revision assessment. I'll let you into a sneaky kind of world exclusive preview. In the future we're hoping to make that a bit better. We're hoping to have some kind of revision compilation quizzes, but in the meantime start doing it manually would be my advice. Next one, some of my students are not completing the quizzes. What should I do? You would be amazed at how many times people email me with this question. Look, it's a difficult one. We used to get this with my maths homeworks, that students just simply wouldn't complete online homeworks. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of it comes down to how we as teachers react to students. I don't know about you, but I tended to take it much more seriously if a student didn't complete a written homework compared to an online homework. And students pick up on this and they start to think, well, if the teacher doesn't really care if people aren't completing online homeworks, then why should I bother doing them, and so on. So my advice for this is you've got to treat the diagnostic quiz homeworks as seriously as you would treat any other homework. And whatever sanctions or whatever processes you have in place for dealing with failure to complete homework need to be in place if students don't complete the diagnostic questions one as well. So it's as simple as that. Treat it seriously, take it seriously, and your students will as well. Next one, how should I actually use the data and insights I get from the scheme of work? Again, it's completely up to you. Personally, this is just my kind of personal preference. I would be tracking, the most important thing for me is tracking what happens in that understanding test. The baseline test, when I get those results in, that tells me where I need to focus my energy in the teaching unit. So that's very, very, very important. So if I can see that kids are getting particular questions wrong, they've no knowledge of that, I know I need to focus my attention on that. The progress quiz tells me kind of as a rough guide what they've learned, or probably more what they've remembered throughout the topic. So I am interested in that, but what I'm more interested in is what happens 3 weeks later. What happens after the kids have started to forget the topic? How much have they truly understood? And if then there are gaps in their knowledge, I'm going to do one of 2 things. I'm either going to reteach it and maybe think of a different way of doing it, or I'm going to do some small class intervention if there's just a few topics who haven't quite, a few students, sorry, who haven't quite picked up on it. And if you're kind of really on the ball here, you can get a whole departmental thing on the go, because you're likely to have kind of 2 or 3 kids from each class who you've got evidence now that they've still got a long-standing specific misconception. Well, that's perfect for specific intervention. I'll have 2 kids from that class, 2 kids from that class, 2 kids from that class, and we're going to do 10 minutes on a Monday lunchtime, and we're going to look at solving this misconception for percentage increase, or solving linear equations, or whatever it may be. So you'll never have more data on your students than you will from this. So use it wisely, and that will be just kind of one way I'd suggest using it. And this one here, how can I change the order and length of my scheme of work partway through the year? Dead easy. Just do it however you would have done it if you were setting it up at the start of the year. So I've done videos on how you change the order and how you change the length of topics and all that kind of stuff. Just go to your scheme of work page and just edit your scheme of work. That's all you need to do. But do it with a word of warning. Obviously, and I say obviously, but sometimes these things need stating, if you move a topic that was coming up and you move it to before the current date, so kind of move it to the past, students won't be set quizzes on that topic. The scheme of work will update instantly to the new way it's been set up. So just be careful. You can easily extend the length of future topics. That'll have no impact on what's kind of going on the current day. But as soon as you start moving events to the past, moving topics to the past, don't expect them to be coming up in the future. It's kind of like a Back to the Future time warp style thing. Just be a little bit careful. But the scheme of work is completely flexible, I promise you that. And that's just about it. So hopefully you found those tips useful, and hopefully you find this scheme of work useful. As I say, it's early days, and if you've got suggestions, just hop onto Diagnostic Questions and use this little chat icon. That'll come through to one of our team and we'll be happy to help you. Okay, take care and bye for now.